All right, the European Commission just dropped a massive update. And honestly, if your business touches international trade, you need to pay very close attention to this. What was once kind of viewed as this dense, theoretical piece of carbon regulation has officially transformed into a literal survival guide for international businesses. The Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM, isn't some distant idea anymore. It's here, the rules just got incredibly specific, and that grace period we had for figuring it all out, yeah, that's rapidly closing. So, in this explainer, we're going to break down the highly anticipated August 2026 guidance package into the 10 absolute most critical changes exporters simply cannot ignore if they want to maintain market access and, frankly, stay competitive.
To really grasp the urgency here, let's put this timeline into perspective. So the definitive compliance-driven phase of CBAM kicked off on January 1st, 2026. That was the moment the whole system shifted from just simple reporting to a strict requirement where importers actually had to start accounting for embedded emissions. But the real game changer, the pivotal moment we're digging into today, dropped on August 14th. The Commission didn't just release a quick memo. They published 10 highly detailed guidance documents aimed directly at non-EU operators, exporters, manufacturers, and installation operators. This release is a massive shift in enforcement. The focus is completely moved from just trying to understand the rules to actively having to prove your compliance through robust, fully documented systems.
Okay, let's dive right into this roadmap. We're looking at 4 main stops today: the new CBAM reality and data rules, technology and AI strategies, the transparency mandate, and finally, your action plan.
First up, Section 1, the new CBAM reality and data rules. Change number 1 completely redefines the playing field. Earlier discussions around CBAM, they almost exclusively focused on the EU importers. It was their burden, right? Well, not anymore. The new guidance makes it undeniably clear that non-EU installation operators and manufacturers are now absolutely central to this compliance chain. And here's why this matters so much. Without accurate emissions information coming directly from you, the producers, EU importers literally cannot fulfill their own legal obligations. So, as an exporter, you can't treat this as just the importer's problem anymore. You are front and center.
And this brilliantly illustrates our second major change. In the past, under those transitional phases, businesses could kind of get away with relying on assumptions or rough estimates. Well, the new guidance completely shatters that approach. It demands calculated embedded emissions using approved methodologies. If your team is still relying on rough estimates, you're going to face massive roadblocks as these expectations grow. You absolutely must prioritize building reliable, actual emissions monitoring systems immediately.
Which brings us directly to change number 3, verification. Across all 10 of these new documents, verification is arguably the strongest recurring theme. Data quality, traceability, meticulous documentation, these aren't just optional best practices anymore. They are strict, unavoidable components of your CBAM readiness. The future of international trade belongs to verified carbon information, completely replacing that old era of self-declared, unchecked estimates.
Now, change number 4 is all about specificity. The Commission didn't just release a blanket set of rules for everyone. They released dedicated guidance for specific industries, like cement and other heavily covered sectors. This is actually incredibly helpful because it provides way more clarity on exactly which calculation methodologies apply to your specific operations. But it also means that relying on general, surface-level CBAM knowledge, that's just not going to cut it anymore. You really have to dig into the dedicated rules tailored to your exact products. Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds into technology and AI strategies. Change number 5 is a massive paradigm shift. Carbon accounting has officially graduated. Is it just some siloed ESG activity or a nice-to-have marketing pitch anymore? Absolutely not. The August guidance makes it a core business function that literally dictates your trade capabilities, your procurement strategies, customer relationships, and even your financial planning. To actually manage this effectively, organizations have to build entirely dedicated capabilities around emissions data. And since we're focusing on operations, let's jump right to change number 7, the undeniable reality of digital carbon management. Listen, if your business is still relying on manual spreadsheets to track complex carbon data, you are going to be left behind. The reporting requirements are just expanding way too fast. We're seeing organizations actively investing in dedicated carbon accounting platforms, continuous emissions monitoring systems, supplier data portals, and advanced carbon intelligence tools just to survive this level of regulatory scrutiny.
Change number 8 is a huge warning against short-term thinking. CBAM cannot be viewed as some temporary reporting project or a quick compliance sprint. The August guidance documents make it crystal clear that the EU expects structured, repeatable, and fully auditable processes. Temporary band-aids won't work anymore. The organizations that take the time right now to develop long-term structural carbon governance frameworks are going to be exponentially better positioned than those who are just scrambling to patch things up every reporting cycle.
Now, what's really fascinating about this guidance is change number 9, the role of artificial intelligence. As the sheer volume of emissions data you have to process explodes, AI is stepping in, not just as a helpful tool, but as a major competitive differentiator. We're talking about automated data collection, precise forecasting, instant data validation, and deep supplier risk assessments. Organizations adopting AI-powered sustainability solutions are going to drastically reduce their administrative burdens while simultaneously making their data way more accurate. Over this next decade, merging AI with CBAM compliance is what will separate the market leaders from the laggards.
All right, Section 3, the transparency mandate. This is a massive macro market shift.
Looping back to that macro view, change number 6 reveals that supply chain transparency is under intense, unprecedented scrutiny. During this definitive phase, European buyers are demanding way more visibility throughout their entire supply networks. They expect their suppliers to provide detailed emissions info, and critically, that info has to be backed up by transparent methodologies and rock-solid documentation. Businesses that already have strong transparency practices in place, they're going to gain a massive advantage in winning and keeping those European contracts.
So the crucial point here is change number 10. If you take away just one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. CBAM is no longer simply about reporting emissions to a government body, it is fundamentally about building a transparent, data-driven, and accountable international trading system. Carbon transparency has evolved from a nice, voluntary sustainability initiative into an absolute baseline business requirement for the entire global market.
To understand just how broad this mandate really is, take a look at the diverse pressures outlined in the source material. It is not just regulators driving this anymore. Customers are heavily demanding environmental transparency. Investors, they're actively evaluating your sustainability performance to gauge their risk. Procurement teams are running deep supplier readiness assessments before they'll even think about signing a contract. And of course, regulators are demanding strictly verified information. The pressure is literally coming from every single stakeholder in your business ecosystem.
Finally, Section 4, your action plan.
The August guidance provides a very clear path forward. So, the moment this explainer finishes, here is exactly what your team needs to do. Step 1. Review the specific sector guidance relevant to your exact products. Seriously, stop relying on the general summaries. Step 2. Strengthen your emissions monitoring systems and tighten up your overall data governance. You've got to get your house in order. Step 3. Make the necessary investments in carbon accounting tech and start exploring those AI-powered sustainability solutions we talked about. Get out of the spreadsheets. And Step 4. Prepare yourself for strict verification. Engage your own suppliers on these transparency expectations because at the end of the day, their data is your data.
The message from the European Commission is clear, and the source material sums it up with this incredibly powerful thought. The age of carbon transparency has arrived. The August 2026 guidance simply makes that reality impossible to ignore. The entire future of international trade is going to depend on accurate emissions data, transparent reporting, and verifiable environmental performance. The reality is, organizations that treat these new requirements as strategic opportunities are inevitably going to gain stronger customer relationships, greater market access, and vastly improved competitiveness. So, I'll leave you with this final question to chew on with your teams today. Is your business treating carbon transparency merely as a heavy regulatory burden, or are you seizing it as a strategic opportunity to leapfrog your competition? The choice is yours, but the deadline has already passed. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.